what advice would you give to anybody? And I know you've covered a lot with that, and we've talked about it. But anybody that is thinking about changing their life, changing their lifestyle, what advice would you give to them?
I'm still trying to figure that out for myself, So, I got a lot of stuff going for me. I've been very fortunate, but God, we all deal with our own stuff, So by no by no stretch of the imagination is my world perfect and perfect example. But the stuff I've learned over the years is just, God, we have such a short period of time on this little dirt ball we call Earth. Don't put stuff off, just get out there and do the stuff, do something, if it's fitness and you have fitness goals, don't put it off till tomorrow. Like, take a step today, step outside, walk around the block, but do something, take an action. When you have the thought, get the ball, moving on it, don't keep putting it off. So that's really it, man. That's where I see people get hung up is just putting stuff off forever, and tomorrow never comes.
My name is Thad David. I'm a former Marine Recon Scout sniper with 2 deployments to Iraq. As a civilian, I've now facilitated hundreds of personal and professional development trainings across the country. And it struck me recently that the same things that help civilians will also help veterans succeed in their new roles as well. Join me as we define civilian success principles to inspire veteran victories. Welcome to another episode. I'm here today with Erin Switzer, Jammer Actual, and you may know him if you've ever played Call of Duty. He is actually Ghost from Call of Duty. He's a Recon Marine, does a ton of work with Black Rifle Coffee, as well as has a lot of support through 9 Line Apparel. Erin, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, man, I'm so pumped up to have you on. I'm excited to hear your journey. It's an incredible journey, and I'm so pumped up to just let people get to know you a little bit deeper and understand kind of what makes you tick.
Right on.
Man, if you could, just so obviously we talked about where you're at, and we're going to talk about that more in depth, but I'd love to just unpack what got you to join the military. I mean, what caused you to join the military? What did that look like? I'd love to hear what got people into the military in general.
So I actually joined a little bit late. I was 24. I was working valet, parking cars at a casino in Kansas City, and I was just like one day I had just kind of an awakening where I had a college football coach come in, and he pulls up in his nice car, hops out, and it clicked on me who it was, and I'd kind of failed at college football, so seeing my coach in that setting and kind of having that little shock of like, gosh, here I am, parking his car, and I just kind of felt a little bit like a disappointment, and that was kind of like my moment where I was like, dude, I got to do something else, man. So I had all my friends were graduating college or had graduated college, and they're all like veterinarians and doing good stuff, and I was like, I got to do something. So I went to go enlist, and initially I was looking at the Navy. I wanted to do like a lot of people, go be a Navy SEAL, and that didn't really work out. I showed up there, and the Navy recruiters weren't there when they on time. So I was outside in the cold, and the Marine Corps, it was like he was a gunny recruiter, just snatched me up, introduced me to Force Recon, and the rest is history. So,
wow, man, I love hearing that progression of going in, and that just happenstance the Navy just didn't show up. And I love to throw jokes about the different branches. Navy didn't show up, and then of course the Marines were there on time, ready to go. And so they got a great asset. And I love that. You mentioned the failures, and that's a big piece of who you are and what makes you tick. I've enjoyed kind of our side conversations, hearing about and your ability to learn from it. Because I think a lot of people have failures in life, but they don't learn from them. And so they either tend to repeat themselves or we stay where we're at. And so you had mentioned kind of failed there with the college. What did you mean by that as far as failing on the college realm or the college football space?
Or both.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
No, I bombed, man. I out of high school, I had some scholarships to smaller schools for football and track, and and I just, like a lot of the stuff I do, I just made a decision one day that, I wasn't going to go to a smaller school. I just wanted to follow my dream, to go to Kansas State. And so I walked on there in the spring ball. I think would have been like 95 or something like that. And I was doing really well. And unfortunately, I was doing well at that, but I wasn't doing too well at my studies. And so I got put on academic probation, partied a little bit. That coupled with a little bit of illness at the end of the year, and dropped a ton of weight, and all that, on the shoulders of a 19-year-old kid was a little bit much for me. So I ended up dropping out. Yeah, so I mean, gosh, I failed at that, but in hindsight, there's a lot of times I play it back, like, what if I would have got my shit straight and actually, done well. And, like a lot of the guys there, several of the guys that were in front of me, went on to the NFL and excelled. They're coaches and at various levels now, still today. But then I also look at it like, gosh, I probably would have not gone to the Marine Corps. I would have missed out on all that, and that kind of, going to the Marine Corps kind of shaped my life for what it is today, which I'm pretty happy with. So I think everything, you always hear the cliche, like everything happens for a reason, but I think that there's some truth to that. So
Yeah, for sure. And as long as you have, like you've proven that you do so many levels, that ability to reflect on what took place there and what are you going to do differently going forward. I have a buddy of mine that he always says that anytime he's dealing with a struggle or inside of a failure, he just says, this is preparing me for something I don't know that's coming yet. And
I
then
like
and I
that.
can't see it, but it's just this is preparation for the next level of
Yeah.
whatever life is going to throw my way. And so you joined the Marines, decided to go be a Recon Marine. How did that transition go? When did you join in? How did that transition go? Going to be a Recon Marine.
Yeah. So I joined in, let's see, boot camp was January of 2000. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I went to boot camp. Then I joined under the 0321, the Reconnaissance contract, which was sold to me that, like, hey, you're guaranteed to go to recon. In hindsight, what that really meant was guarantees you a tryout. And if you don't make the tryout, you become needs of the service, which pre-war or pre 9/11 meant that you're going to be a cook or admin of some sort. Which, not to take away from those folks, we need them. I love my chow and I love my pay. We appreciate you guys. However, that was not for me. So when I found that out, that was motivation enough to keep me going on the tough days. So yeah, so I
Yeah.
went in as a contract 0321, boot camp SOI, and then on to BRC there at Coronado. So class 4
Very
tax
nice.
00.
Excellent. So you went off BRC, completed that, and where did you get stationed at?
So they gave us, and I'm sure you went to ARS, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so they give you, for us, they gave us the wish list of, hey, give us your top 3 picks, so naturally I picked California because I was familiar with it, and I kind of took to the SoCal, life down there. I thought it was pretty cool. So being
Yeah.
from Kansas, I was like, this is nice, so I checked that out. So I checked that as number 1. 2, I think, was Lejeune, and then I want to say, I think there was an option for like Hawaii or something weird like that, or whatever. But nonetheless, they put me. It was just kind of like going through the process, asking like we had, or pretending like we had a choice in it, and they sent me to
Yep.
Okinawa. So, which now I'm very fortunate that I grew up in the reconnaissance community as a young recon marine in Okinawa, because it's an awesome place.
Yeah, that's one of those. I would imagine it ends up on the bottom of everybody's wish list if you get the choice. Um, uh, but everybody that I've talked to that got stationed in Oki absolutely loved it. I mean, people, there's some amazing stories that come out of it, and some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And so, you had an interesting childhood story though, because in I mean, being a recon marine and you are a combat diver as well. How was it going through dive school? When did you go? What did that look like for you?
So yeah, so I think I mentioned it to you off camera that I had a near drowning experience when I was a little kid. I was probably probably about a year and a half old, and I'd fallen into an indoor pool at a hotel, sunk to the bottom, and was ultimately like rescued by a lady who scooped me up off the bottom of the pool. And I still, like to this day, I mean, I still can remember that pretty vividly, which is crazy.
And you were a year and a half old?
Yeah, so I
That's
mean,
an
it was
amazing
traumatic. It
memory.
was a traumatic
Yeah,
experience, man. Like, I can't remember what I did. I don't even know what I ate for breakfast, but I sure as hell can remember that the echoes and stuff
absolutely.
of my brother's voices and stuff as I, was sinking. Um, but so going into the reconnaissance community, which you spend more time in the water than you do out of the water sometimes. Um, that was a huge fear to overcome. And then obviously dive school going into that, man, many sleepless nights. Just the fear of drowning. Just kind of at that point, when you get down there, you've already gone through pre-scuba and obviously BRC and everything, but it's still kind of has that little haunting in the back of your head. So that kind of messed with me, but it's like a lot of things. And I think that's the same with a lot of guys like us. Is that you find something that's your biggest fear, and instead of running from it, you run towards it and attack it and take it head on. And so that's kind of how I dealt with that. It sucked. It was my biggest fear, but hey, let's overcome this.
Man, so impressed with your ability to step into that. And you mentioned running towards that fear. I'd love to ask you. I mean, what was that like going into that? Because I mean, dive school is on another level. I mean, that's like being a recon marine. We swim a lot. Going into to be a combatant diver, they mess with you in the water. What did you do to prep for that? Heading into that fear,
Yeah.
it's a big thing to get prepped for. I mean, what did you do mentally to get ready for that?
I mean, mentally, I was, you know, it was I was a mess going into it. Honestly, like I was scared shitless. Like I said, already touched on. I'd sleepless, like many sleepless nights because you lay there thinking about what's about to happen the next day, and you're like, you sit there and you can't sleep, and then you don't want to fall. You need the sleep, but you don't want to fall asleep because the very next thing you do is you're going to wake up and you're going to go rolling straight into the suck fest. So it's a real mind fuck. But for me, like leading up to it, once I knew that I was going, I had uh, a teammate and an awesome mentor in Okinawa that talked to us about working on our breath holds and stuff like that. And so I emphasize that I sucked at running, and that's a huge part of dive school. But the main thing I did overall was work on my breath hold, and that was just everywhere I went. I was holding my breath from point A to point B, trying, keeping time, seeing how far I could stretch it out. When I was laying in my barracks bed, just watching TV, trying to hold my breath through commercials, through songs. Like it's just, building up that breath hold until I had a breath hold of, guys, probably 2.5 minutes before I went down there, which uh, for me it was just an insurance policy, knowing that some of the challenges we were going to face was going to require us to get the shit knocked out of us underwater. Um, the shit kicked out of us underwater for a period of time, and I knew that if I had a really solid breath hold, that no matter what's going on, I relaxed, kept my cool, that I would have time to figure it all out and work through the problem.
Hmm. I love that. So you built up confidence with your breath holds going into them. You did everything you could do to really, as you called it, an insurance policy built up to where you knew you could go for X number of minutes and be good. And I'm sure that it only got better along the way. I love to hear how you just stepped into that fear because I think that a lot of people, even now, I mean, we get out. I think sometimes people forget about how quickly they jumped into their fear too. Because I mean, a lot of people have the same thing. I think there's a lot of people that can connect with what you're talking about because they went off to boot camp or whatever they did in the military and they had fears going into it and they ran to it. And I wonder how many people nowadays we get out and we forget about charging towards that fear, that thing we're afraid of. So I love that you're able to share that. I know you also had an interesting story in Okinawa too that I would love to be able to unpack and share because I believe you had an interesting situation that took place. What did you get injured? Something like that happened? over in Okinawa. Do you mind
Yeah,
sharing that as well?
yeah, sure, man. I had an injury like right when I got there, which um, showing up to Third Recon, I showed up as a Lance Corporal, which was, as a new guy showing up as a Lance Corporal, you catch a lot of heat because your ATL is a Lance Corporal, and then I picked up Corporal right when I got there, so I was getting thrashed every day as it was,
Yeah.
and then I think I was there maybe a month, and we did a cold water amphibious package in Iwakuni, and I was going out the back of a CH-47, and we were doing just helocasting in dry suits, and slipped going down the back ramp, and fell about 30 feet into the ocean, and ripped my pectoralis major on my right side, completely ruptured that, and ended up having to swim it was about 2.5 clicks into shore, which sucked.
Yeah.
But
Too.
fortunately, the water was ice cold, so it kind of helped numb it a little bit. But so that was a challenge, and so I had to overcome that. There was a period of time where while I recovered, I got kicked out of my or removed out of my platoon and put over to H&S for a period of a few months. And fortunately, I had a first sergeant over there that was super cool. Took me under his wing, and looked out for me and kind of set me up for success and a good recovery from that injury. And then I eventually got through that. Went back over to Bravo Company and finished out my second year over in Oki with Bravo, which was a really good experience.
I can't imagine what was that recovery period like. I mean, what'd you have to do? What'd you have to overcome? I mean, what type of support did you have with that?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I went down to the main site hospital after about I think a month and a half, 2 months had passed. Where being a new guy at the unit, you go to sick call and they look at it and the dive doc just said, hey, you've got a bruised bicep, which wasn't the issue at all. It's just it looked like it because it was all the blood had kind of gathered and collected around my bicep. So it was misdiagnosed from the get go, and being a young guy at a reconnaissance unit, you just you don't want to be that trouble, the guy that's high maintenance, so you just kind of shut up and drive on. And by doing so, the muscle had already healed and everything the way it incorrectly. So by the time I finally got down to see an actual orthopedic doctor, it was too late to repair it. So I just requested, I got over that first sergeant Grant. I don't know where he's at nowadays, but good dude, looked out for me, and he asked me as I came in. Because I know you don't want to be here. How can I help you out? What can I do to help you, get back where you want to go? And I said, honestly, there wasn't any like physical therapy over there to help me recover. I went to one therapy session. They had never dealt with that injury, so um, I basically just asked for time to try and figure it out myself. So I just worked with what I knew, and just from lifting and exercise, and kind of resorting back to some of the strength and conditioning programs I've been a part of, and just broke it down super simple with just starting out with mobility and flexibility and stuff like that, and range of motion, and then started introducing some extremely lightweight and stuff like that, and it eventually worked out, and my strength got stronger than it. I ended up being stronger than I was prior to the injury, which just came down to focusing on what the doctor told me that I wouldn't be able to do. Um, that's kind of struck a nerve with me. So he told me I wasn't going to do 20 pull-ups again. I focused on that, and he was right. I did 30. So
Yeah.
whatever he told me, hey, you're not going to be able to do this. I focused on that, and it kind of fueled my fire to just kind of fuck you, I'll do it. So and made it happen, and that helped me bounce back.
Dude, it's incredible. It makes me wonder too if there's oftentimes like a doctor sees the twinkle in your eye, like, man, this is gonna just really get under this guy's skin.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he knew,
Yeah.
and I don't know whether he did or didn't, but obviously that motivated you. And so I
Well, it
like to think
worked.
sometimes they know. Yeah, it's man, it's awesome. And just made me think about it too, because I wonder where you got your workouts from. Because anybody listening, it's easy to think about modern day, right where we're at right now. And if you want to do literally anything, like I can search, I'm running and I got a foot pain, you'll get a million different videos on YouTube, which
Right.
I would imagine this is the 01, 02 timeframe, correct?
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
that wasn't a thing. I mean, where did you get all this? I mean, that's a lot of resilience. I mean, you had to really dig deep to find
No, it's
what
just, I
support.
mean, I don't, and even still to this day, I mean, I've never followed the only time I followed a program was obviously in college. College football is a very, very, very detailed program, like down to how many reps, how much weight, everything was calculated specifically for you. Um, but other than that, that's like the only time I've actually followed any sort of program. I know I get hit up from time to time on social media, like, hey, what's your workout routine? What's your stuff like that. What do you do? And just because I'm knocking on 50's door, and I'm still in pretty good shape. So I'm asked that, and I just like I don't follow anything, man. I kind of just I've always just kind of gone off of what I feel and what I feel. Like I don't know. I don't follow any program. Just whatever I feel like doing. And it's worked. I'm still here. And still doing okay for my age. So
Well, I think that probably the key thing there is that you're doing, which so many people we kind of get stuck in that analysis paralysis. We get that analysis paralysis where we analyze, what do I do, and we don't do anything. Whereas
yeah,
it sounds like for you, it's the opposite. It's like I'm not worried about what I'm doing. I just know I'm doing something, and you kind of
yeah.
step forward into the action piece of it, which I think eludes a lot of people. So, and that's just an incredible journey, incredible story going through the military. And so, what did it look like? How did you transition out of the military? Did you do 4 years? Did you do longer than that?
Yeah, so I enlisted for 4, and I was set to get out. I think I was in SEER school when the war kicked off officially, and then
Okay.
I was set to get out. Not long after that, and then we got the call that we were going to deploy over there. So I extended for 6 months, just to go over with my team, because how we'd done a workup and everything else, and I wasn't about to like bail on the dudes, and honestly, I was, from a selfish aspect too. You get your shit pushed in for 4 years, and then all of a sudden, Super Bowl rolls around, and your contract's up. Like you're not gonna sit on the sidelines for that. So yeah, so I extended and went over, did one trip over to Iraq with my team, and then got out after that.
That's love that you defined it as the Super Bowl too. I mean, that's everything you trained for, everything you looked at, and so many people. I know that that's a big thing now that a lot of people struggle with is they do their entire enlistment and never deploy. And I know now that's a big thing, and I love that you had the opportunity to do it. You stepped in, you did it, you made it happen. So you just extended for 6 months. And I would say
Yeah.
just minimizing that, as that's a big commitment um, to do it. And then what did you do after you got out? How did that look for you? What took place?
Man,
How
I
was that
got out.
transition?
Actually, yeah. So I had like 45 days of terminal leave. So I came back, and I think I surfed like 44 out of 45 days. So, me and my boys, Craig McCarroll and Scotty Lehman, um, we spent a lot of time surfing. So we'd go down to Carlsbad, stop by a 7-Eleven, get a little coconut mocha coffee, and paddle out, and just spend a lot of time surfing. I tried hanging out in SoCal for a while, doing personal training, stuff like that. It's way too expensive at the time, and so ended up moving back to Kansas City and going to school for engineering for a few years.
Right on, man. And I want to ask you about that too. And you mentioned Craig McCarroll because he was actually I went through pre-recon school with him, and
Okay.
they picked 6 of us to go over to ARS, and so I went through with Craig, and man, Craig's an absolute beast. He has one of him and his 2 brothers have that tattoo across their back,
Oh yeah.
which I always thought it was the coolest thing. I was like, man, you have such a tight knit, because me and my family we weren't very close, and it was my first introduction to seeing like a really tight knit family. I always love it. Man, he's just a beast of a human being. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude, man. We're still real tight. So, um, talk to him regularly.
What impact did that time frame? Because I know that I've actually talked to quite a few people that do a lot of more. It's now called surf therapy, which I know that wasn't what you were doing. But what did that do for you getting out and having that transition? And have you ever thought about that? Have you reflected on that timepiece of being able to just do that surfing, really have that intentional break
I
from the
really haven't
military?
thought about that much. I mean, for me, it was just like, I don't know. I mean, I was, I went from being told what to do, when to do, and how to do it for 4.5 years, and then all of a sudden, I've got like 40 days where I don't have to do anything. It's like, so I was just chilling. I wasn't giving any, that I wasn't having some like deep emotional, like, you know, you know, therapeutic, I guess I probably was, but that wasn't my intention.
Right.
I wasn't like set out to find clarity and all this stuff. I was just like, dude, I'm just going surfing, man. Let's grab a coffee and let's go surfing. And that was about all the thought I put into it. But in
Yeah, for sure.
hindsight, yeah, it probably was very, very good and a good way to transition into the freaking zoo that we live in, So, um, but yeah, it was a good time, man.
I I, I bet it was. And there's a great book called Stealing Fire, where he actually breaks down in his. It's not a military or veterans book. However, it has some commonalities where he connects some dots there. And surfing is one of those things that's proven long term to have like really big benefits on things like PTSD, anything like that. So
Yeah,
while you weren't doing it with that, uh, I I bet it had a really nice impact and helped propel you. I can only imagine that it would, even though that wasn't your
right.
intentionality behind it. You're just having fun, which probably made it better. So you got out, and what got you? I mean, now man, I was blown away because I played when I got out. Somebody showed me Call of Duty probably 15 years ago. Man, forever ago, and I saw it. And I was like, oh, it's super realistic. This is cool, and I played it. And just recently, somebody showed me the new Modern Warfare 2, and it was insane for me to jump on and start seeing like guys I knew from the recon community in this game. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like how
Yeah.
what what started this path for you? I mean, what was that like? How did you get into it? It's a pretty incredible thing to be doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really cool experience. For me, I just kind of got, I guess, got lucky. Obviously, uh, one of my good recon buddies, Jim Staley, who was at First Force, known him now for what 20, 21 years. Um, he started a company up called Tac Gas. It was just kind of like a marketing and I guess like a production company for like the tactical space, utilizing a lot of us, a lot of dudes from the recon community, a lot of Rangers, SF guys, and even a couple SEALs and stuff. Um, and it's based on shooting realistic content that's accurate. Because you see so much of the stuff, especially in Hollywood, where dudes are holding loading magazines backwards and just not moving. Not everybody actually does. Most of the actors don't do the work like like Keanu Reeves and actually learn to shoot. Most of them are just actors that don't even know which way hardly to point the rifle. So we focused on that and was working with him and kind of crushing it in that space, and then Call of Duty, Activision, Infinity Ward, and those folks threw a little chunk at TAC Gas, and they kind of knocked it out of the park, and so it kind of opened up a lot more possibilities and opportunities for us, and then kind of got into the casting part of it, and so Jim was really big about pushing. A lot of guys from our community that were actually dudes that played the real world part,
Hmm.
pushed really hard for us to get into the game, and he hit me up about doing this part for Ghost back in Modern Warfare in 2019, and so I jumped on that. And I did, like I didn't do the voice acting. I think originally I think in 19 it was Jeff Leach who was a voice actor, and then Modern Warfare 2 is Sam Rukin. So I did like all the covers, all the cover art, a lot of the pictures, some of the stunts, commercials, and stuff like that. So everybody always, it's like some guys, some guys want to claim, 100% that they are a certain character, but those of us in the know that we realize that or actually know and acknowledge the fact that a character like Ghost it's more than one person,
Right.
so I can't take full credit for that. I'm about half of a character that that makes up that character. So if I was British and I had an awesome British accent and I sounded tough, then I could probably fill that role. Or if Sam or Jeff got in the gym and got a little bit bigger and got in shape and got some firearms experience, they could probably fill that role too. So,
Wow.
and
That's
that's a fun stab at those guys. Hopefully, it motivates
no,
them
man. I
to
just
get in the gym and want to kick my ass. So,
yeah, man, for sure. Well, I love that you pointed that out. I'm still just impressed with um, your humility inside of this. I think that one of the traits of a good leader, because one of the things I do is talk about leadership and leaders in general, and one of the triggers and the points of where you're talking to a good leader is anytime you reference a part in their life that's kind of one of those big highlight areas that just kind of out of nowhere seemingly happened. They reference that they got lucky with it, and that was exactly how you referenced it, is that it was just some luck and not taking away from it, whereas a less humble or not a great leader would say, well, that was all me, and you didn't do
yeah,
that. And I think that just speaks to you and your leadership and just who you are, backing up to your humility, that it's not you're not the one character, that it takes everybody. And I love that you can poke a little stab at them too, so in along the way. And so you do that. You also do a lot of work with Black Rifle Coffee as well.
yeah, yeah. So my dog and I, Rex, he's somewhere around
Uh,
here. He kind of does his own thing. So we do ambassador work for them. And of course, we've known some of those guys since before Black Rifle was a thing, and so it was just kind of made sense for us to come on board and shoot content with them and stuff. So it's been a fun, enjoyable ride, and it's been really cool to see some veterans. It's always good to see veterans and guys from our communities rise up and be successful, and they bring a lot of other people with them, which is really cool. So
it's always love seeing their success and just hearing about seeing all the really cool things that they're doing. It's a great thing for them and for the community. It's good to see. So I love that you brought up Rex, because Rex also in the video game, and this gets back to one of your big passions, is that you spend a lot of time with dog rescues, don't you?
yeah, in fact,
Yeah.
gosh, we just rescued one. I'm, I was on a rally with Jim this past week
Okay.
doing a rally, supercar rally from Aspen to Salt Lake. Stopping through Telluride and a couple other places, and we're zipping down the highway at I won't say what speeds, but somewhere around the speed limit. And I'm sitting there on the phone, or yeah, I'm on my phone. He's asking for navigation and stuff, and it's pretty intense. I'm sitting there texting people, because this Malinois Akita mix is at a dog shelter. It's got less than an hour to live before it's euthanized. So I'm making posts on Instagram. I'm texting, messaging people that I know and this network, and I had two of our followers actually. They didn't know one another, and they were both, like hauled ass to the rescue or the shelter to rescue this dog before it was euthanized. And I just saw a video of it today. They scooped in, they saved this dog, this awesome dog that looks a lot like my puppy, and they got it, and then we coordinated there's a female police officer in Miami that's going to take and adopt the dog. So it's being fostered right now in Dallas by some awesome people that stepped up. And here in a couple weeks, once it's healed from being neutered, then we're going to transport it to Miami to its forever home. And so it's stuff like that. That's like um, our platform on social media. That's, I love doing all the fun stuff, and it's hopefully entertaining for people that follow us. I try to keep it, somewhat entertaining and not boring. But ultimately, the whole reason, that I'm one of the main reasons that I'm on social media is using it for causes like that. And it's awesome to actually see that unfold. And it's just reassuring that, this, all the time that I put into it is not just wasted time. It's productive, and it's doing awesome stuff, because Lord knows we all have better stuff to do than be trolling around on social media.
Right. Well, and you can. I mean, there's some good. It's cool that you're using it for the good side. You're having some really good things come out of it, and that's what an incredible story. What got you into just dog rescues in general? I mean, what sparked that?
Just working alongside dogs, throughout the military, and then, in my current work, working with the canines and stuff like that. I've never been a canine handler. I've played a canine handler in a TV show, but never an actual operational canine handler. So I've always worked alongside them, and I've always had a passion for it. Those dudes it's awesome. I mean, how your job is bringing your best friend to work and working alongside them, and that's awesome. Um, but just being around that breed of dog, the Malinois and the Shepherds, I've really taken a liking to them, and just the way that they perform and stuff. And then, with the new, like the new John Wick movies, and seeing the popularity of the Malinois and the working breed dogs, how much those have been cast into or thrust into the spotlight as these badass dogs, and now they are like the new status symbol, or the new accessory, for people that want to look like badasses. It used to be like pit bulls and Rottweilers, and now it's Malinois. Everybody wants a Malinois on their side, so they can wear that Malinois like a freaking high end handbag or something, or some sort of
Right.
accessory. But people quickly realize that if you don't put in the work every single freaking day with these things, a lot of times twice a day, 3 times a day, that this dog is smarter than you and a lot more capable than you, as far as like thrashing you and shredding your life. So um, people don't put in the work, and then these dogs, they get pissed off, frustrated, throw them in the backyard. They either escape the backyard and get picked up as strays, or the people just, hey, this dog doesn't want to listen, it doesn't want to learn, and it's just crazy and insane. And so they take it and they surrender it to the shelter, or they take it somewhere and just abandon it. And so all these dogs, these badass dogs, are ending up in shelters. And for us, that's how I now have 3 of them. Because every time I go and I see one, I snatch it up. and
Yeah.
and the original plan was, I got this one, I trained him up. Rex is phenomenally trained, and he's an very exceptional dog. And then my plan was to continue rescuing these dogs and training them and giving them off to veterans. But the second one didn't work out quite like that. He's just kind of a house pet. He doesn't like to be told what to do. He just kind of hangs out, and that's my dog Hank. We call him
Okay.
effing Hank, because he does pretty much. I mean, he's not hellion, but he just kind of does what he wants. He's just kind of like the dude from the Big Lebowski. He just kind of chills. So he wouldn't be a great, service dog or anything. But yeah, so I don't know. I just kind of keep adopting these dogs and training them, and it's a lot of fun for me. It's like therapy. I mean, you get back from a stressful last day and come home, spend some time with the dogs, just interacting, learning new stuff and new challenges and stuff like that. So it's kind of therapeutic for me. You know.
Well, it's an amazing cause, because I think that it's really unfortunate what happens to these dogs, that it becomes popular. Like you said, it's like wearing a high end handbag, which it's not the case. It's a brilliant animal that loves to work, but not worked. It tends to look. I don't want to say bad, but it doesn't do what it. I would guess it looks like it's misbehaving, anything like that. Again, not knowing the space. That's kind of what I'm hearing, is if you don't work it, if you don't put in the work to train it up, you're going to have some problems. Going on the
Yeah.
other end of that, it makes me want to ask too, what sort of support? I mean, say somebody listening was like, you know what, I would love to help out. I would love to rescue a dog. Knowing that there is that much work that goes into it, what sort of support or help do you give anybody, or resources does anybody have? Knowing that if they wanted to adopt one and bring one in, I would imagine that work still needs to be put in with that rescue dog, maybe even more. What sort of support
Yeah.
resources do they have?
There's, I get hit up quite often for, excuse me, for dogs. People looking for dogs, advice on the breed, the Malinois breed, and working dogs and stuff like that. And I always, first and foremost, I always let people know that, hey, I'm not a professional trainer. I'm just a dude that has got some good dogs, and I put in the time, and I've learned a hell of a lot from some awesome trainers. And I really, I'm really passionate about that. So I'm not a professional trainer. I have been pretty fortunate to interact with some really good trainers, and I work alongside some of the best canine handlers in the world. Um, but yeah, I always first and foremost, I always tell people like, hey, if you're considering one of these dogs, um, you know, there's a lot of breeders out there, but gosh dang, there's a lot of these dogs that came from those breeders that are now at shelters. So I always say, like, go check out your shelters. If you're really passionate about these, and you're looking to rescue one, you can. I mean, your listeners can always hit me up, and I have endless shelters and rescues that I work with. I work with several of them that have so many freaking awesome dogs. They come with all their shots, all of their, come with a lot of basic training, crate training, all that stuff out of the box, which is awesome. And they also come from the shelter, or the rescues. They've been with these dogs. They can tell you like, hey, this is the quirk on this dog, or this is not. Where, and not to. I think breeding has its place. There's obviously in the working space, a lot of agencies, require that they come from certain breeders or have the certain vetting and stuff like that. So it's definitely got its space. But the backyard breeding, people that just get these dogs and breed them and stuff, and hey, I want to do one litter so I can make some money, make my money back, or it'd be cool or whatever. And, that's not my jam. I think that's contributing to the problem that we have. So,
Right.
but yeah, man, if anybody's interested, reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with some rescues that have awesome freaking dogs. And then there's a lot of different trainers out there that are reputable. There's also a lot that do your homework, because they advertise really well, they appear really well, but they'll destroy your dog. So do your homework on that.
Mm. Well, it's a great cause, and I know there's a lot of great dogs out there that do need a good home. So I love that you're able to contribute in that way, and really use everything that you've built. I mean, you've built a huge career, huge following, and you're able to do some really amazing stuff with it. I think it's funny. We just got, just about 6 months ago, we got he's passed out right here, waiting to go in our run. But a wire-haired pointing griffon, which is a randomly came across. It was a super random, really long story, but apparently, we've done some research, but apparently they're high end dogs. Like they like to be worked, and if not, they can turn them to be kind of misbehaving dogs. And he's
Yeah.
incredible. He's the best dog. He's amazing. And I know, like, I take him on runs and we play fetch. We do different things with him, but we always feel like we don't give him enough exercise. But then me and my wife sat down and we were watching him, and the kids, we have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I mean, he probably gets 2-3 hours of just running and just playing with those kids. And I
Right.
love that, just seeing it. Like, and I think that's what's contributed to him being such a great dog, is he gets so many different facets of action from, not only from me and my wife, but also from the kids, who they're always pulling on him and doing randomness with each other. But it's a great companion, and if you can find a good one, set it up. I know that I really believe in having a good family dog is a great thing. So I
For
love what you're
sure.
doing with it.
Thanks.
And as we talk about all of this, I mean, I really appreciate you sharing everything. I'm curious to ask you too, because I can't. You got a huge following. I'm sure you get asked a bunch of random questions, and I just want to ask, like, what's your favorite question to get asked and to answer? Maybe something that we haven't talked about. Like, what's your favorite thing to discuss? Like when you get asked about it, what's top of list for you?
Oh man, I don't know, man. Like I from time to time I do put, like, hey, ask me a question or something like that, and I get yeah. There's a wide array of questions that I get
Yeah.
asked, but I would say like not. It's not so much the questions or anything like that, but I get a lot of or not a lot, but like from time to time I get feedback from individuals, and it's like something that like there was a like some a post or something that we did or something like that had an impact, and a positive impact, or motivated somebody in some way to do something for themselves. And so anytime I get feedback like that, that hey man, like you had a post last week that I was really down in the dumps, and it kind of brought me back and motivated me, and this week's been great, or something like that. That's stuff for me. It's really uplifting. And like a while back, we were doing an opening in a black rifle, and it's a little bit off topic, but kind of related. This is kind of what this kind of stuff that kind of fuels my fires. Years ago, I was a GoRuck cadre, cadre for GoRuck. I led those, helped lead those events and stuff. And I had this gentleman up in Phoenix that he was he was he was he was overweight, significantly. He was probably three plus. Uh, you know, and we did a Go Ruck Light, which is like like it's like a 10 maybe a 10 mile hike with a pack, a little bit of weight and some activities, and the dude got probably 50% of the way through the event, and he wanted to quit. He's like, man, I can't do this, and he was really struggling, and I was like, I'm sorry, man, like I don't allow people to quit these events. Like you just got to keep going. Like it's not an option. And the other people rose up and supported him and kept him going. And we had some kind of heart to heart talks on that. And dude, he made it through the event, and he spoke to me afterwards, and he's like, he was he was what you did today. He goes, it really meant a lot, and he goes, I'm gonna change my lifestyle. Because I've realized, he goes, I'm a grandfather. I used to hunt. I used to hike the mountains, and I want to do that stuff with my grandchild. And it's a long story, but you know, people tell you that. You hear that all the freaking time, right? Hey, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to start working out on Monday and all that stuff. And it's like, you see enough of it over the years. You're like, hey, man, that's awesome. Yeah, good luck to you. Well, fast forward, about 3 years and 3 or 4 years, and I'm up at this Black Rifle opening up in Phoenix, and this guy comes up to me and goes, Erin, right? I was like, yeah. And he goes, you don't recognize me, do you? And I was like, in my memories, and like we touched on, my memories shit. I mean, I've had a couple bad accidents and all the other crap. So I was like, man, you look familiar, but I apologize, I'm not off the top of my head, I don't. And he goes, hey man, it's Sean. He goes, like 4 years ago, you led the Go Ruck event, and I told you I was going to change my my diet and exercise. And this dude was like, he had lost over 100, I think 120 pounds or something like that. He was down to like just looking like a normal dude. And I was like, when he said that, then I could tell, like in his face, I was like, holy shit, that's the dude that barely made it through that event. And to me, like that dude, that's like, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. But it was that's the type of stuff like that fuels my fire. Rescuing dogs, seeing people that having a positive impact, being a positive influence on people, something uplifting, or helping kids, stuff like that. That's what kind of motivates me. I could give two shits less about any of the any of the stuff that we do that it seems cool. I mean, it's a bonus, it's a plus, it's a fun ride. But ultimately, the really rewarding stuff is seeing um, just less fortunate people, get lifted up and stuff. If that kind of makes sense, you know.
Makes perfect sense. I absolutely love that story, and I get more motivation out of seeing people stepping up and doing just going the extra mile, like doing the extra thing, and it made me think of we see like a David Goggins video where he takes that video of him running, and it'd be really cool to see that person that's going to say like I'm going to get started on Monday, that you mentioned, like we're going to start on
Yeah,
Monday, but it's like no, I watched your video, I got off the couch. I don't even have running shoes right now, but I'm out running right now. They're like this, like I'm doing it right now. It's done because it's putting the work, it's putting the action. I'd love to hear that you were able to contribute and just help him to see a different way of living, a different way of thinking. So it's no surprise that that's got such a big impact for you and means so much to you because it's a huge contribution to just society in general. So, man, if you think about it, what advice would you give to anybody? And I know you covered a lot with that, and we've talked about it. But anybody that is thinking about changing their life, changing their lifestyle, what advice would you give to them?
man, that's you know, I'm still trying to figure that out for myself, you know. So, I got a lot of stuff going for me. I've been very fortunate, but um, God, we all deal with our own stuff, you know. So, um, by no stretch of the imagination is my world perfect and perfect example. But as far as like the stuff I've learned over the years is just God. We live such a freaking we have such a short period of time on this little dirt ball we call Earth, and don't put stuff off. Put uh, like just get out there and do the stuff. Do something. If it's fitness and you have fitness goals, don't put it off till tomorrow. Like take a step today. Step outside, walk around the block. But do something. Take an action. When you have the thought, get the ball moving on it. Don't keep putting it off. So that's really it,
Mhm.
man. That's where I see people get hung up is just putting stuff off forever, and then tomorrow never comes.
Yeah, it's always tomorrow. And you say yours isn't perfect, and I love this is one of the things I love, and it's as an outsider observing kind of the story that you've shared of your life. There's this thread that weaves through all of it, and what I've heard is just you doing what you just said is taking action. I mean, you shared the story of you know dropped out of college, valeting cars, and you were like, nope, something's got to change, and you went to the recruiter's office. You shared the story of tearing your pec with no support, no nothing. I know the VA is there, but back then there's and you took action. Dive school, you've got this failure or this fear of from a past childhood training. You stepped into it and made it happen. I mean, you took action, and you've got this littered pathway of the places in your life where you've taken action. And so I would happily say that I think you are a perfect example to follow of taking action. I respect your humbly not saying
No,
that, but I'm
I
going to say it
appreciate
for
that,
you.
man.
And
I
it's a
appreciate it.
really cool thing that I think you're a perfect example to follow. And I love your humility inside of it, but I do wish that people uh, took a note out of your book and really stepped up, took some action. So I'd love for you to share, if you don't mind, just where is it? I have one more question or one more statement and follow it up, but I'd love if you don't mind sharing. If somebody wants to get in touch with you or just kind of see what you're doing, follow you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, so I mean, we're primarily our largest platform is Instagram, and my following or my page is Jammer underscore actual, uh, and I post that's just our daily stuff, and then just kind of like what I'm up to and everything like that. I'm on that daily. I'm real responsive on that, and then I also have Rex's page backup. His page got hacked and stolen and then held for ransom a while back, and I wasn't about to cave to that. I wasn't going to pay somebody to get what was mine back, so I told them they can have it and delete it and some other things. And then So we're rebuilding his page. It's just straight up Call of Duty Rex, and
Okay.
that's going to have all of the all the dog stuff on it, a bunch of the stuff that he's up to, all of his activities, his tricks and stunts and stuff like that. So either one of those. He's also on TikTok under the same name.
Okay.
If that's more somebody's jam, just mindless entertainment. But yeah, Instagram jammer_actual is what I typically monitor the most.
Okay. And well, anybody that wants to, I definitely recommend. You've got some amazing content. I always love seeing the different videos. I'm not on there a ton, but anytime I open it up, yours is always one of the top ones that pops up, and it's always
Nice.
it's really it's very entertaining to say the least. It's really cool to see you doing some awesome stuff, especially some of the Call of Duty commercials that have been made have just been uh, they're awesome. So I definitely recommend anybody to go check it out. And I also know you have um, tell us about Nine Line. You have like some clothing, some products, things like that
Yeah,
on.
so we've got Rex, my dog. We we actually have an apparel line through Nine Line Apparel. So if you go to their site, it's just ninelineapparel.com. You can get a lot of the t-shirts, hats. We've got tumblers, coffee mugs, stuff like that. Actually, this is our latest design, which I
Yes.
100% believe. This came to me. This was a thought that came to me about 3 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't sleep, and so this is one of our big sellers right now on Nine Line. It just I think it just posted on there in the last week or so. But you just go
That's
to ninelineapparel.com, go down to partner stores, click on partner stores, and I think we're like the third or fourth one down. It's just Call of Duty Rex, and it'll have all of our T-shirts and stuff like that. A lot of the T-shirts that we do, we typically like to give a portion back to different organizations that support military working dogs. Um, like retired military working dogs, canine departments that are maybe not funded greatly. We like to help them out as well. And then also, there's also causes that come up with, related to children and stuff like that. So, yeah, so we appreciate all the support, and anybody that purchases stuff like that. The money does not go to waste. It goes to help us continue to grow our platform and do the stuff we do.
well, I think it's an amazing cause, and I think it's a layered one too. And for anybody that, if you're just listening, not watching, the shirt says "dogs" with a greater than sign, people, and so I definitely agree. It is a very true shirt, and for me, it's it's dogs are just awesome, awesome, awesome animals, awesome creatures, and I love to support veterans. Anytime I can support a vet, I'm usually I kind of sign up, pay for it, whatever capacity I can, but then to find out all the layers of what you're helping, because it's not only helping support you, but we're helping support service animals, we're helping to support other people in need along the way. So there's a cascading, so not just supporting you, or there's a ton of support that goes into it. So anybody that wants, definitely go check out your gear. I know there's a ton of really good stuff there. And then one of my favorite quotes, favorite sayings, I heard it, and it's interesting because this has been just talking about failure, talking about different things along the way. And this quote just says that the size of the superhero is determined by the size of the villain they have to overcome. And we've talked about a lot of villains along the way. And if you have, and I'm not sure if you have or haven't, but have you considered, I mean, where would you say the biggest learning opportunity has been for you as far as the villains or any of the failures, things that have happened in your life that have propelled you into this figure that you are? And I know you humbly say that you're not that figure. However, what do you think it's been? What part of your past has really helped out?
Yeah, honestly, like I don't know. It's just for me, it's um, it's just been kind of instilled on me to never quit, and so I don't know if there's one significant villain or anything like that, but just not being afraid to fail, and when you do fail, use that to fuel the next, your next venture, and sometimes, I think a lot of times you get stagnant, when you don't have challenges, And so, you know, for me, it's always that's kind of been the stuff that fuels my fire and motivates me is challenges, whether that be a new venture or an injury or failing at something is that challenge and having something to overcome or work for or work towards. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. I
Oh,
don't
I
have
think
a
it's
I
yeah.
can't I can't really think of anything significant, but that's just kind of a summary of how I don't know, I guess what keeps me ticking.
I mean, I think it answers it perfectly. I think that uh, for me, as you were saying that, I was thinking about just envisioning if somebody actually did stop and look back at it, because you said you haven't really identified one piece because you're looking at the next thing, and that just goes back to the advice that you gave and you being who you're recommending other people to be. I mean, you're stepping in and doing exactly that. Hey, what's the next thing I need to get over? What's the next thing I need to conquer? And just constantly moving forward, that I don't have time to look back. So I love it, man. Thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate everything that you do. And I really appreciate you taking the time today to jump on here, man. Thank you very much.
But, if I can say just a
Oh,
couple things
please.
before
Yeah.
we yeah this past week I saw that we lost another reconnaissance marine in the community to suicide, and it's something that a lot of times it's not the sexy thing to talk about, and I just wanted to touch on that. We
Please.
as brothers and a community, we need to really focus on reaching out to each other, staying in contact, lifting each other up. When you see brothers down or you see brothers quiet, um, it doesn't take uh, it doesn't take anything to give some uplifting words or make that phone call. That 5 minutes that you spend on the phone touching base with somebody could be enough to kind of snap them back and keep them on track. So, as we close, I'd like to, one, remember, those guys and just kind of keep that in mind. And to the guys that are out there that are struggling with stuff, you're not alone. There's a lot of other dudes that have demons that they're dealing with. And, you know, uh, part of being a man and being, a tough dude is acknowledging that and seeking that help, getting help through some counseling, um, and reaching out to those brothers that will come out and support you. So I strongly urge all the listeners and viewers to do that. Take that 5 minutes, make that phone call, reach out to your brothers, and let's freaking nip this shit in the butt.
Hmm. What a thank you for sharing that. I think it's a huge thing. Definitely reach out if you're struggling. Reach out, and if you're not struggling, if you're one of those people, make sure to check in. Reach out and see who you can support along the way, and give some of your support too. So, thank you, Erin.
Right on, dude. Well,
Uh,
thanks for having me on.
yep.
If you don't have anything else,
Oh, that's it, brother. And I appreciate you
cool.
stepping in, man. Thank you. That's
Awesome, dude.
that's awesome,
We
man.
got
Thank
it. We
you.
got it all figured out, and I overcame my techie struggles, and, and we made it happen. So
Yeah.
thanks for taking the time, dude.
Dude, of course, brother. Man, you're always welcome on. I really appreciate you stepping in and making it happen. I know you have a really busy schedule, so thank you.
You bet, dude.
I